Part of what you have to do before you even think about embarking on drawing caricatures is to get an understanding of what the hell they are. When I think of caricature, I think of what I was doing as a political cartoonist. That caricature was something, it was a tool that was used, or a weapon that was used by political cartoonists and satirists to ridicule politicians. And I used to define it as, I used to say that a caricature is a drawing of a politician that makes them look as foolish as he or she actually is. If you're someone who is just getting into drawing caricatures, you can definitely benefit from listening to political cartoonists and looking at political cartoons as much as or more than you can from getting the point of view of illustrators or owner-operators of concession stands at theme parks and amusement parks, where they draw and sell what they call or think of as caricatures. If you look at the way I draw these, I know they're not pretty. I know that the type of drawing I do does not follow the rules of good drawing, good in quotation marks, and drafting. Political cartoons are clearly a type of comic art. The drawings we political cartoonists do and the way we draw them is driven by the cartoonist saying something. When political cartoonists have an idea we want to get across, we draw a cartoon in order to deliver that idea. A caricature should deliver an idea the same way a political cartoon does, or the same way any kind of cartoon does, the same way a comic strip does. That's one of the main differences between a caricature and a portrait. A caricature is not just a portrait that has extra emphasis added to it. A caricature is much more like a cartoon or comic in that it delivers an idea that's kind of like the equivalent of a visual punchline. It has to have a really clear idea that it conveys to be a real caricature. And I'm not saying that everything I do when I go out and set out to do caricatures really qualifies as a caricature. I don't think that everything that I do really should be called a caricature, but there are so many visual artists nowadays who are doing portraits. And that saying that a caricature is a portrait with the volume turned up. That was in Gray's book. Others have used that or stolen that phrase. A portrait with the volume turned up is a portrait with the volume turned up. It's not a caricature. It's just a portrait with a higher degree of emphasis. If it is a portrait with a higher degree of emphasis, that does not make it a caricature. A caricature has to say something and should have a really pointed idea that it clearly delivers. It should express a very vivid feeling about the person, not just a description of their face that's emphasized. That's not a caricature. That's not comic. That's just a portrait. It's a very different thing.